Making headlines this week, leaning to the truth. Legal actions now going after the global central banks. The is not real government. International and domestic opinions lining up against Benjamin Netanyahu's warmongering. Did President Obama recently drop a hint on a secret agenda?
You're absolutely right.
And one foundation has apparently begun making available its knowledge and technologies freely available to the governments of the world in the name of peace.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. Following on the information that liens were filed last week against the 12 U.S. Federal Reserve banks, comes more info this week from David Wilcock at DivineCosmos.com that arrest warrants have now been issued against the international branches of the Federal Reserve, the European Central Banks, the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Japan. This is due, at least in part, to gold that was seized and stolen during World War I under the pretense that gold had to be stored in a central depository in order for peace to be implemented. What followed was the creation of the fiat currency, the Fed Reserve, and all the institutions that were set up to perpetuate the enslavement of humanity and the destruction of the planet for profit. One key part of the activation of the new global financial system centers around a lawsuit filed late last year in a New York court involving funds that were stolen from an Asian secret sacred group, the Dragon family. Their representative, Neil Keenan, filed the lawsuit, and with the help of key witnesses, the lawsuit can begin to prove the crimes of the global elitist cabal. In a recent interview with Madison Rupert of InLightRadio, Keith Scott, a former employee of the Office of International Treasury and Control for 14 years, brought to Keenan all the inside info about the global accounting system that is not known by the people of the world. He also knows the codes to validate the bonds that are in question in Keenan's lawsuit. He offers the following overview to what the lawsuit is about and what it means for humanity and our planet.
Okay, this case, Madison, started off by just a common theft. $134 billion in bonds were stolen from Neil Keenan by a fellow by the name of Daniel Del Bosco. And Del Bosco may well have been induced to do this by David Sale, who is from the Office of International Treasury Control. Now, just to make things fairly clear here, I worked for Office of International Treasury Control for some 14 years. And I left there in 2008. At the time this occurred, I was back in Phnom Penh in Cambodia, which is where the Office of International Treasury Control actually is run from, by a man by the name of Dr. Ray C. Dam. Now, in this particular case, $134 billion were stolen. They were in the form of Federal Reserve notes or bonds. These bonds are genuine. The Federal Reserve may try to claim otherwise because when you look at the bonds themselves, they are written in such a way that they are deniable if you took them into a court. Now, the reason why this is, if somebody were to illegally possess these or try to use them, the government could then charge them with counterfeiting or fraud or whatever, and this avoids the government having to explain, not only the government but the Federal Reserve having to explain exactly what these bonds are. Now, I will tell you this, there are the amount of these bonds that are in existence run into the many thousands of trillions of dollars. There is an enormous quantity out there. Now, let's try to keep with the actual case. So So these bonds were stolen from Neil Keenan. Neil, when this first happened, nobody took a great deal of notice. He was kind of struggling. He then was introduced to myself. I explained to him that the bonds were genuine and that the actual owners of these bonds were the Dragon family, whom he represented, and that the Office of International Treasury Control, who claimed that they owned the bonds through David Sale, that they did not own the bonds. The bonds belonged to the Dragon family and therefore had been stolen from him. With that in case, I soon realized the value of this case, because what I could provide for Neil was the background, the history, and eventually I could even provide the codes that would allow us to prove in the banking screens that these bonds are genuine, that they are real. And that changed the complexion of the entire case. The reason why is because we would be able to prove that these bonds were genuine, that they were of value, and this would have exposed the entire system, the entire global system. But not only that, it would have exposed all the people who have been stealing and cheating and misusing these accounts for the last 50 years, because there is a record of that in the screens. And it probably would have meant something like about 300,000 bankers, politicians, and other people would have been heading to jail. So that's the leverage that this case actually provides. If those screens are opened and there is a judicial review and a proper audit done on these accounts, that will then expose the entire corrupt system that we know as the Federal Reserve.
To hear the full interview, you can search for End the Lie Radio on the internet or get the link from the summary of this program, which will be posted on the blog at greenprintforlife.org. Pentagon whistleblower Drake offers this information in a recent interview.
I'm working on a request to officials to offer some form of official document that doesn't give things away, but yet shows the validity of what I'm saying. At the same time, as these things get ready to happen, behind the scenes there's going to be the sweep. Then over about a 3-day period, 2 days used maybe, to make sure that their sweep's complete, they've got the records and the individuals, we will be given a heads up. And that heads up is called green light. Green light means that we get on every news station available to man and out this thing, basically through the internet. At the end of that point, I understand that there's supposed to be, at that time, the public arrests. Now, by public, I mean that they're intending to invite the press. So, I'm looking for that day, that news day. That ought to be really memorable. And to add to this, to be a part of the rebirth of a nation is totally awesome. I never expected this much involvement. I didn't expect to be on the radio, much less doing what I'm doing. So I'm grateful to those people who trust me to that extent, and hopefully, we can continue this process until we get her done.
In a part of his weekly update message, Sheldon Neidl offers this information from the Galactic Federation.
The Dark Cabal's agents are being watched closely as agencies of various major governments prepare to arrest and then prosecute droves of prominent people in government and finance, and across the board in the private sector of their respective economies. The process is getting to a point where you can shortly expect the start of an immense cycle of arrests. The Dark tried hard to sweep this process under the rug, but was unable to do so. A series of far-reaching liens has been formally pressed on many central and private banks that in the past flaunted the epithet, too big to fail. These financial service corporations readily and repeatedly violated many laws designed to police international commerce, the worst offender being the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. This private enterprise has been the ringleader of many notorious schemes which threaten the very foundation of your world's well-being. This is why this particular institution is being dismantled, first, to be followed in rapid succession by a landslide of fellow conspirators.
Former East-West Bureau Chief for Forbes magazine, Benjamin Fulford, says in his weekly update that people both inside and outside of militaries and agencies are getting impatient for things to begin. But apparently the word from the Pentagon is that nothing will happen until everything is finalized with the new financial system. So what will this new economy look like, and how might it unfold publicly? Several alternative news sites, including the 2012 Scenario and the Galactic Free Press, have printed one scenario offered by a source named Cobra. The information allegedly comes from sources deep within the occult economy, and it pertains to the restructuring of the global financial system.
The reset will happen at the time of the event and is part of the operation. At this time, the event is believed to be the arrests worldwide. On day one, when the critical mass of pressure is exerted upon the Federal Reserve, it will be forced into bankruptcy. This will trigger the chain reaction failure and bankruptcy of the BIS, IMF, World Bank, and all central banks. On days 2 through 7, banks will be closed, and there will be uncertainty and confusion. Some businesses will be temporarily closed. Any that remain open may accept cash, and others may accept gold and silver coins. There may be inconveniences in the distribution chain, so it is wise to have a supply of food, water, and basics for a short period of time. Credit cards will not be accepted, as that system will go down. About 1 week after the event, there will be a reevaluation. The new financial system will be introduced and will be backed up with Yamashita gold. This gold will not be traded in open markets. A basket of currencies such as the US dollar, British pound, Swiss franc, Japanese yen, and Chinese yuan will form the basis of the new system. Banks not connected to the Federal Reserve System and that did not go bankrupt will reopen. They will not be allowed to charge interest. All accounting is to be fully transparent and public. Stock markets will not reopen. The reevaluation will occur, balancing out currencies until current monetary notes are retired and new currencies are printed. All fair business agreements, contracts, and responsibilities worldwide will be kept valid and will be respected. Those agreements that were fraudulent in nature or connected to the cabal will be canceled, null and void. After a few weeks, multinationals will be obliged to buy back their stock and they will be forced into bankruptcy. They will be split up and healthy portions will be nationalized in their own countries. The existence of global settlement funds will then be introduced to the public. Funds include about $70 trillion from old money patriots connected to the positive military, $100 trillion from the White Dragon Society and Templar groups, $120 trillion from the resistance movement, and $10 trillion from the Saint Germain Trust. This total will also include all money and assets from the cabal. National, public, and private debt is to be paid off worldwide. After that, people will receive restitution theft and criminal activity against them by the cabal. Then prosperity funds will be released, creating a new economic wave of humanitarian, environmental projects, and also advanced technological projects will be funded. Part of the money from the Saint Germain Trust will go directly to light workers, and the rest will fund projects connected to the introduction of our galactic families and first contact.
This information is shared so that as events unfold, people can recognize what is happening and not go into fear. What is now happening is a beautiful transformation, bringing light, freedom, health, and prosperity for humanity and our planet. A lot of articles are appearing in the mainstream media about Israel, and perhaps even more so of late. What the mainstream media has not been educating the people about, however, is the difference between the messages from real Jews and those that are a part of the Zionist movement aligned with the Dark Cabal. The Israeli government and those among banker elite are seeking to start another war, but it seems finally that the people of the planet and the people of the countries involved are now beginning to stand up and speak out for true peace and a healthier, abundant planet for all. BusinessPundit.com has ranked the pro-Israeli lobby as the National Rifle Association of Foreign Policy Lobbies in the United States among the top 10 of the most powerful and influential lobby groups. It is arguably within the top 2. It is a force to be reckoned with, and politicians and pundits alike are quick to support it and reluctant to criticize it. This lobby group has powerfully controlled the U.S. government and the war fear-mongering effort that has been fed to the North American people via the corporate media establishment. It seems major cracks are now beginning to form as more and more truth emerges. Politicians and citizens alike within Israel are telling the world that their government, under the control of Benjamin Netanyahu, does not represent the interests of Israel nor of the true Jewish people. On April 30th, Al Jazeera published a story with a headline asking if Netanyahu is misleading Israel over Iran. It quoted Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, Israel's military chief of staff, as saying he does not think Iran has already made a decision to build nuclear weapons. Gantz went on to say that he believes the Iranian leadership is composed of very rational people who will not take the risk of building a nuclear weapon. Meir Dagan, the former head of Israel's Foreign Intelligence Service, Mossad, has also openly questioned current actions by the government, saying that military action against Iran is the stupidest idea he has ever heard. Russia Today reported on May 1st that former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and the recently resigned Kadama party leader Tzipi Livni have now joined the chorus of past and present senior Israeli politicians criticizing the government and its warmongering policies against Iran. Livni was quoted in her resignation speech as saying that Netanyahu's government is putting the existence of the Jewish state in mortal danger by ignoring the growing international discontent. Former Israeli security chief Yuval Diskin has also come forward with strong words saying that top Israeli government ministers are misleading the public about the consequences of preemptive action against Iran. Russia Today quotes Diskin as saying, "I don't have faith in the current leadership of Israel to lead us to an event of this magnitude of war with Iran. I do not believe in a leadership that makes decisions based on messianic feelings." Diskin was, until last year, the head of Shin Bet, Israel's internal security operation. Al Jazeera quoted Daniel Ben-Simon, an Israeli member of parliament, as saying that Diskin was closer to Netanyahu and Barak than anybody else, and he was really the guy that knew everything. He was there until a year ago, so you cannot dismiss any word he says, and the headlines in the Israeli press show a division among decision makers. The Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak and PM Netanyahu launched a wave of criticism against Diskin. Barak has also been quoted as saying that Iran is not rational in the Western sense of the word, and brushes off diplomatic solutions as a waste of precious time. The Iranian message is that its nuclear ambitions are only for civilian purposes. Netanyahu himself has been selling the message that the Iranian regime is openly calling for our destruction and working frantically for the development of nuclear weapons as a means to that end. Former PM Olmert was quoted as saying that, "I prefer that it would be an American action, supported by the international community if all other efforts were to fail." It has become abundantly clear that the banking cabal has been involved in creating and perpetuating all wars since at least World War I. The cabal has been desperately trying to start another war to perpetuate fear in the world and justify their continued control and enslavement of humanity and our planet. In a related incident, Benjamin Fulford reported in his weekly update that the prostitution scandal involving the Presidential Secret Service reported by the media was actually a story to cover up an assassination attempt on President Obama in early April. Fulford's sources in the British MI6 and the CIA were reporting that the attempt to kill Obama was a hit ordered by Netanyahu and top North American Mossad agent Rahm Emanuel. Fulford goes on to say that Netanyahu is now finally being renounced by mainstream Jews and Israelis, and cites the quote by Diskin earlier that was widely circulated in Israeli public media. It appears that the Zionists had not counted on two very important things, one being the very will of the people of the world, and the other being the assistance being offered by our galactic families at this time. The consciousness and will of the people is rising exponentially. Haaretz.com, a Jewish online publication, has printed at least 2 letters from people of Israel to the Jewish people living in the world and especially within the U.S. In 2010, Gideon Levy, a contributing writer to Haaretz.com, said, "Dear American Jews, if you love Israel, criticize it." He went on to say that there is no delegitimization of Israel, and that there is only delegitimization of Israel's policy of force and occupation. Israel is addicted to occupation and aggression and needs to be weaned from this addiction. If Israel is dear to you, and that is true of most of you, then be honest enough to criticize it as it deserves. In the same publication, in September of 2011, Yossi Sarid wrote, "Dear U.S. Jews, please do not let Netanyahu deceive you." The hearts of the people of Israel, and now of Iran, are beginning to have an impact. It was in March of 2012 that an Israeli man, a father, and a teacher created a poster campaign that has now become a global international sensation. He created a poster saying, "Iran, we will never bomb your country. We love you."
Hi, I'm Ronnie. I'm 41 years old. I'm a father. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a teacher. I'm a citizen of Israel, and I need your help. Lately in the news you can hear about a war coming, a big one. Governments are talking about destruction, about self-defense, like this war is not about us. 3 days ago, I posted a poster on Facebook. The message was simple. Iranian, we will never bomb your country. We love you. Attached to the poster, I wrote a few words. To the Iranian people, to all fathers, mothers, children, brothers and sisters. For there to be a war between us, first, we must be afraid one of each other. We must hate. I'm not afraid of you. I don't hate you. I don't even know you. No Iranian ever did me no harm. I never even meet an Iranian, just one in Paris in a museum. I do. I see sometime here on the TV an Iranian. He's talking about war. I sure it does not represent all of the people of Iran. If you see someone on your TV talking about bombing you, be sure it does not represent all of the people of Israel. So within 24 hours, people start sharing the poster on their Facebook. Within 48 hours, the Iranian people start responding to the poster and share back their love to us. Hundreds of messages arriving from Iran telling the Israeli people, we love you back. The day after, we were on TV, on newspaper, proving that the message was traveling fast. Okay, now we want to make sure that the message reaches everybody, not only in the Facebook community, but everywhere. This is a message by the people to the people.
The people of Iran responded with the same love and passion. It is clear that the consciousness of the people do not want war, and they want a world of love and peace. Both countries have made it abundantly clear that their governments do not represent the interests and desires of their people, and so the people have taken it upon themselves to create the world that their leaders will not. Voices worldwide are coming into alignment with this. The closing minutes of the movie Thrive with Foster Gamble, his wife, and numerous guests offers these words of inspiration.
There's no question in this country that money, that capital is being increasingly concentrated in the hands of a few. And those who are so powerful are concentrating it further. But there is a force that's more powerful, and that's the power of the people.
humanity is now in a very interesting evolutionary phase in which we move from hostile, aggressive competition, which is the nature of young species, into a more mature mode of cooperation, collaboration.
The crisis has matured to the point of being on the threshold of mass awakening, and that feeling inside me gives me the vitality to know that no matter how small what I'm doing looks to me in the face of these huge problems, that the impulse of evolution is not small. And when it's in everybody who's waking up, it's huge.
And as more and more of us are waking up, linking up, and daring to speak up, the scheme for global domination is being exposed. And we're discovering solutions that can create the world we yearn for and deserve. Again and again throughout history, when people have recognized tyranny rearing its cruel head, they've come together and stood up for liberty.
It is these very actions that have been supported by our galactic families, and it is these very actions that send the messages that the people of the world want peace, and they want a world of health, love, and abundance for all. In a channeled message from a celestial named Saul on May 2nd, Saul offered this via John Smallman.
Only those who wish to be unaware are unable to sense the air of excitement and anticipation that has enveloped you all, and free will allows them to cling to that unawareness. Needless to say, many of the unaware are beginning to wonder whether it makes any sense for them to continue clinging to this state of stubborn inflexibility, which sees only continuing and insurmountable problems all over the world due to people's inability to cooperate for the benefit of all. They have an inner sense that there has to be a better way. They know, because all on earth know, even though that knowledge may presently be buried under monumental amounts of debris, that life is intended to be an eternal experience of infinite joy.
The Galactic Federation offered these following words via Mike Kinsey, also on May the 2nd.
Our presence and backup will ensure that any attempt to start another world war will be unsuccessful. We are also making sure that where the arrests for criminal acts involving financial matters are concerned, those who are guilty did not escape justice. However, we ask you to leave such matters to the authorities. And when you learn the fact, do not let your anger result in reprisal. All will answer at some stage for their actions against the people. Your energy is best spent spreading the light and sending love to all that need it at this special time.
Another message via the Galactic Federation through Greg Giles, also on May 2nd, offered these following words.
Never before has a world and a people gone through such incredible challenges, and we wish to tell you that so many other worlds look to you in awe and respect for what you have gone through and what you have accomplished together here. There have been such great tests of your will, stamina, and strength, and yet here you are, standing today at the threshold of all that is possible through such challenge. Your days will be filled with meetings and conferences to better prepare and acquaint you with your new lives as a fifth-dimensional society and a member of the galactic community. Many of you will be going through educational processes and training in many different fields and areas, as there will be much to learn about your new and rapidly evolving world. Your new society will be based on a system that will provide free and unlimited access to each and every being on your planet. There will be no tuitions, no fees, no taxes, no entrance exams, no qualifying grades needed or letters of recommendation. Each and every one of you will be entirely welcomed to begin training or education in any field that you desire to learn.
Reach out to the world with love and without fear. Know that any messages and events in the mainstream news that try to create fear will not happen. The investigation and understanding as to why so many wars that have been launched in the first 12 years of this millennium may offer some answers to the wars that were launched during the 1900s. Evidence is already compelling that banking-controlled establishments were responsible for World Wars I and II, as well as the Vietnam War. The Lusitania was deliberately sunk and the Japanese were allowed to destroy Pearl Harbor in order to allow the banking interests of the U.S. to get into those wars for profits. The Vietnam War was started on a false flag lie, the Gulf of Tonkin, which has now been shown to be proven as a lie. Evidence is also overwhelming that 9/11 was a false flag event, and David Wilcock has commented in his Financial Tyranny series about the causes of 9/11, one of which surrounded the payback of gold to help facilitate the transition to a new global economy. Another pattern is emerging as to why Iraq, Afghanistan, and Iran are being specifically targeted, and this is linked to the issue of central banks. This is not a fully validated list. In 2000, there were apparently 7 countries left that did not have a central banking system controlled by the Rothschild Empire: Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. By 2003, Iraq and Afghanistan had central banks. As of 2011, the only countries left that did not have a central bank are Cuba, North Korea, and, you guessed it, Iran. Should it be any surprise, perhaps, that the corporate media is scaring up fear-mongering stories about North Korea and Iran at this time? The corporate connection is worth exploring also, and how this influence affects the global economy and your enslavement to this system. In October of 2011, London's dailymail.co.uk ran a story from an article published in newscientist.com citing results of a University of Zurich study that proves that a small group of companies, mostly banks, control a huge amount of power over the global economy. This research is the first to look at all of the 43,060 transnational corporations and the web of ownership between them. This research was narrowed down to further isolate 1,318 companies at the heart of the global economy. Out of this number, the study revealed a mere 147 companies that formed what the study called a super entity within that group, controlling at least 40% of its wealth. Although the purpose of the study was to show the interconnectedness of companies within the global economy, the pattern certainly raises other questions in light of what is now unfolding in our world. Among the top 25 of these companies, Barclays Bank, J.P. Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, Bank of New York Mellon Corp., Goldman Sachs, and Bank of America. The study revealed that this tightly interwoven network could be terrifyingly unstable. Compared to where we are currently, it is now clear that this corporatocracy is very unstable and is now collapsing. Many may ask how it was even possible for this kind of control to take place. John Perkins, who wrote the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, tells part of the story to Foster Gamble in the movie Thrive.
The central banking elite have put huge organizations in place to implement their policies, including the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. John Perkins is a man who knows from decades of his own experience as a so-called economic hitman how the collusion of banks, corporations, and governments has taken over countries around the world.
We use many techniques, but probably the most common is that we'll go to a country that has resources that our corporations covet, like oil, and we'll arrange a huge loan to that country from an organization like the World Bank or one of its sisters, but almost all of the money goes to U.S. corporations, not to the country itself. Corporations like Bechtel and Halliburton, General Motors, General Electric, these types of organizations, and they build huge infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, highways, ports, industrial parks, things that serve the very rich and seldom even reach the poor. In fact, the poor suffer because the loans have to be repaid, and they're huge loans, and the repayment of them means that the poor won't get education, health, and other social services, and the country is left holding a huge debt by intention. We go back, we economic hitmen, to this country and say, look, you owe us a lot of money, you can't repay your debts, so give us a pound of flesh. But as soon as one of these anti-American presidents is elected, one of us goes in and says, hey, congratulations, Mr. President. Now that you're president, I just want to tell you that I can make you very, very rich, you and your family. We have several $100 million in this pocket if you play the game our way. If you decide not to, or in this pocket I've got a gun with a bullet with your name on it in case you decide to keep your campaign promises and throw us out. Sell our oil companies your oil real cheap, or vote with us at the next UN vote, or send troops in support of ours to someplace in the world such as Iraq. And in that way, we've managed to build a world empire with very few people actually knowing that we've done this.
Still, I wondered, how could something that is so big and corrupt be kept secret? It's a simple structure, and if it wasn't simple, it wouldn't work. And it can be likened to a compartmentalized pyramid. If you look at any organization today, no matter whether it's a transnational corporation, a university, a government, a secret society, they're all structured as a pyramid. And as the CIA and other intelligence agencies talk about, they have this need-to-know system. Only let people know as much as they need to make their contribution and no more. So you take a bank, an individual bank, not that there is such a thing. At the bottom, you've got the people you see when you pass your check over the counter in the bank. Now, they don't know what the bank manager behind them knows and is discussing. They only know what they need to know to do their job. The bank manager in the office behind them, he doesn't know or she doesn't know what's happening at the next level, and they don't know what's happening at the next level. And eventually, you've got a tiny few people at the peak of the pyramid of that banking structure.
Benjamin Fulford offered in his update that in Europe, the signs of collapse are visible for all to see. The crisis in Spain, imminent regime changes in Holland and France, arrests all over Europe, and the implosion of the big banks are there for everyone to see, either in the corporate media or on the internet. Now, although it may not seem like it, this really is very positive news, because it indicates the significant awakening of human and planetary consciousness over the last year. What was once hidden in darkness has now been brought out into the light, and once in the light, it can no longer be hidden or used as power to control the people. The people are beginning to ask the hard questions of leaders, at least those leaders who are approachable, their members of parliament, and their bankers. People are becoming informed. More details on this transformation will unfold over the coming weeks and months. In a follow-up to last week's story on the technical problems that resulted in the shutdown of the Moscow Stock Exchange on April 24th, Pentagon whistleblower Drake offered a bit of information about this in a recent interview.
Russia's stock exchange went down for 5 hours. Is there any way that they were switching to a new global system?
Well, they are realigning some of what they're doing, but the problem is a person by the name of George Soros. He couldn't effect a direct takedown while he was in the country. Apparently, there was an arrest warrant issued for him for financial terrorism. The second part of that goes to the fact that you can do these things from a distance if you have people who will act as your agent. Soros has been known for that for a long time. I'll give you an example. He owns both political parties. Now, if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. Quite simply, they shut it down for self-protection. They had opened it back up, and certain people went in there as agents, starting to cause extraordinary changes in valuations. This is the manner in which you create a bubble so that the thing, when it does pop, it goes down to a lesser value than what it was before. So instead of paying a reasonable price for something, you end up picking it up for pennies on the dollar. Same thing that the Rothschilds did to Great Britain. Exactly. It's a standard operating procedure. Buy low, sell high. Well, if you buy low or on an emergency basis, and this is anything, companies, people, whatever, it can be stocks, it can be bonds, you name it. If you can get something on an emergency basis, you always pay less than the value. Generally, it's less than 50%. Now, what Soros was looking for was about 30 to 40%, and he would have owned Russia. Now, If that does not give people the understanding as to why the man was issued an arrest warrant, I don't know what could. But that'll give you an idea as to why it was shut down. They've reconfigured it, and they've cleansed it in some ways of the capability of certain people to operate within it. And this should put them on good footing. That's the answer to that one.
It may be interesting to note that according to the Mikex News page, since April 26, 20 new securities issuers have begun trading since the system went down. On April 28th, trading in the dollar-ruble FX swaps commenced, so these may be signs to indicate that something is taking place in the Russian stock market. According to the website of U.S. Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul, Dr. Paul's sweeping victory in last Saturday's Louisiana caucuses was the latest in a series of guerrilla caucus state coups by the Outsider campaign to get Paul's name on the ballot at the National Convention in June in Miami. These wins may put Dr. Paul in the dominant position to capture the state's delegates at the state convention on June the 2nd. This follows the announcement that Paul appears to have locked up at least 3 states, Iowa, Minnesota, and Washington, and he may still have a chance to take Alaska and possibly even Mitt Romney's home state of Massachusetts. The campaign appears to be on the threshold of attaining at least the 5-state minimum to get Paul's name onto the ballot. In light of the other scandals and truths revealed last week about the lies, frauds, and crimes of the Canadian government comes yet another revelation. Despite having been touted as being more stable than the banks of other countries by the federal government and the banks themselves, comes the revelations that at least 3 major banks received significant secret bailouts. Previously, Canadians had been assured that their banks did not need bailouts. A study put out by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives has released a study showing that Canada's banks received $114 billion in cash and loan support from both the U.S. and Canadian governments during the 2008 to 2010 financial crisis. The study estimates that at some point during the crisis, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, the Bank of Montreal, and Scotiabank were completely underwater, with government support exceeding the market value of the banks. Russia Today, Alex Jones, and PolicyAlternatives.ca are all carrying the story that the 2012 Bilderberg meeting will take place in Chantilly, Virginia on May 31st to June the 2nd. Alex Jones is calling upon everyone to join in an Occupy Bilderberg event, which will draw even more attention to the elitist cabal. Last year's Bilderberg meeting in Switzerland was suddenly cut short, and many fled the country quickly as a prominent member of Switzerland's largest political party called up on federal authorities to arrest Henry Kissinger as a war criminal if he attended. Infowars.com gave the event fairly extensive coverage and appears ready to do the same again this year. A lot has happened in a year, and with the apparent destruction of most, if not all, underground escape bases set up by the elitist cabal, any meeting this year is likely to be characterized by absolute fear and chaos as remaining members of this cabal try to figure out what has gone wrong and why none of their strategies are working any longer. With luck, and with divine and galactic help, this meeting will soon be cancelled due to everyone being arrested. And in a bit of lighter news. Last Saturday at the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, the following was said by President Obama.
If I do win a second term as president, let me just say something to all my conspiracy-oriented friends on the right who think I'm planning to unleash some secret agenda. You're absolutely right.
Was this a planted statement to signal that something else is soon to get underway? Those who are already aware of what is going on may read between the lines that this could be a strong signal that events are beginning to unfold and that Obama is aware of what is about to happen. The annual gala event is sponsored by the White House as an event to relax, laugh, and roast a few people, and to show gratitude to the press for following the rules laid out by the elitist establishment in not exposing them for another year. I mean to say gratitude for their commitment to truth in journalism. The event was emceed by Jimmy Kimmel, and here are just a few of the other highlights from both Obama and Kimmel.
What a collection of people. Here in one room we have members of the media, politicians, corporate executives, advertisers, lobbyists, and celebrities. Everything that is wrong with America is here in this room tonight. I have a question. Who are these people who think it would be a good idea to attack Iran? I hear people say, bomb them, nuke them, just do it now. But they're a real bunch of yahoos and Netanyahus. There's only one way to have peace between the Israelis and the Arabs. Instead of focusing on their differences, they should focus on what they have in common, which is a mutual love of falafel and terrible dance music. Some people say journalism is in decline. They say you've become too politicized, too focused on sensationalism. They say you no longer honor your duty to inform America, but instead actively try to divide us so that your corporate overlords can rake in the profits. I don't have a joke for this. I'm just letting you know what some people say.
Congress and I have certainly had our differences. Yet I've tried to be civil, to not take any cheap shots. And that's why I want to especially thank all the members who took a break from their exhausting schedule of not passing any laws to be here tonight. Jimmy got a start years ago on The Man Show. In Washington, that's what we call a congressional hearing on contraception. Plenty of journalists are here tonight. I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate the Huffington Post on their Pulitzer Prize. There's no one else out there linking to the kinds of hard-hitting journalism that HuffPo is linking to every single day. And you don't pay them. It's a great business model.
It appears that our dear brothers and sisters who monitor the internet have not yet informed Obama of the hard-hitting journalism that Cosmic Vision News is linking to. So this may be a good sign, although I guess my tuxedo will have to hang for yet another year. In this month's channeled message from Celestial Matthew Ward via Susie Ward, humanity and our planet are on the verge of making universal history. Matthew goes on to further add that
never before in this universe has any world risen out of entrenched darkness with such speed or had such monumental assistance from myriad light sources. Never before has so many highly evolved souls come from other civilizations to participate in a world's spiritual revival. Your world is being transformed by evolution, not revolution. What is happening now not only will hold the Dark Ones accountable for their deeds, but also will guarantee that no others with like intentions of global domination can chart the course of your world's destiny. Most people don't know that Earth has almost exited third density, or that the law of physics governing life in this universe holds that nothing with the low frequency vibrations of darkness can enter the high vibrations of fourth density. This includes physical bodies, activities, plans, dogmas, laws, customs, rituals. Everything devised with dark intent to control the populace. Everything that is harmful to the body, mind, and spirit. Everything that for millennia kept your world mired in third density will be ending within months. Most of the populace hasn't an iota of awareness about the giant steps in the collective consciousness that eventually led to the ongoing discussions between some of your leaders and representatives of other civilizations. Most people don't know that technology in spacecraft surrounding the planet is causing widely destructive weaponry to malfunction. It is leveling out the effects of geophysical events and is reducing the toxicity in all types of pollution, including radioactivity and harmful substances and chemtrails. The majority of Earth's peoples don't know that plans are carefully being made for some crews to land and be officially welcomed, or that these strangers will be bringing their technologies to assist you in cleaning up the planet. Most will be shocked to learn that members of other civilizations have been living among you, and some of them are thwarting Illuminati attempts to regain a foothold by opening new battlefronts.
The complete message can be found at MatthewBooks.com under Matthew's Messages. What technology is coming out next? Well, if this story and the information presented on the website of this foundation is true, the world has just been gifted very significant space technology that may have many other practical benefits to humanity and our planet. Predrag Brekanovich, contributor to the Galactic Free Press, shared this story that on the 21st of April 2012, in the first international presentation at the Keshe Foundation Center in Belgium, the foundation began offering a full transfer of technologies to world governments. The Keshe Foundation, through its ethos of world equality, organized and executed the first of its series of presentations of all its technologies. In this first meeting, the Keshe Foundation explained and demonstrated the technologies, and systems were shown and physically given to government representatives, ambassadors, or the representatives of the attending nations to handle and test. The article reports that all nations that are a part of the United Nations that could have been invited were contacted and given an invitation. Also invited were the European Space Agency, the International Space Agency, and NASA. So, from April 21st of this year, the first day of spring, the technology and know-how held by the Keshe Foundation are directly offered and are now made freely available for use by world governments. The Foundation says that it will now be the responsibility of each government receiving this information to bring the space, health, food, and energy technologies developed by the Keshe Foundation to their respective citizens. According to the Foundation's website, KesheFoundation.com, the purpose of the exclusive presentation is to introduce the Foundation's space technology to space agencies and governments. The Foundation affirms that it is and will stay a neutral organization without any ties to any government. The Galactic Free Press has posted a copy of the invitation sent out to worldwide representatives, affirming clearly that the information is being freely shared with all nations of the planet without discrimination. The audio archive and links to this information will soon be available on the blog of the Greenprint for Life, and the archive is also now available on the 2012 scenario. Cosmic Vision News reported recently on the story of a U.S. drone that was brought down in Iran. David Wilcock and Drake both commented on the technology that would have been required to bring this drone down in one piece. The following is a quoted statement from Mr. Keshe. "We gave our knowledge in the space program free of charge and as a gift to Iranian scientists. Thus, this will be the same for the rest. We do not and shall not sell our technology to the officials, governments, and space agencies that attend the meeting, but the technology will be given as a gift to them as part of our belief in humans' equality in the knowledge of sharing. How each entity commercializes their part of this new knowledge from us to increase their research will be in the hands of each government and organization. Our space technology will be a gift to your nations, not a sale. We have asked for the public to be there. At this time, the technology will not be shelved, but be in the open, to be used for the good of all men irrespective of nations and religions. New beginning, new ethos, and new science for this era. In this meeting, African nations will have the same opportunity in developing their space program as Iran, USA, and Russia have. The Keshe Foundation has done all its work to take humans into space independent of the Earth resources, and now we are ready to share the whole knowledge with all of humankind. No patent, no peer review control. All our knowledge is for all nations and all humans. Welcome to the true world of humanity and the ethos of the Keshe Foundation for the benefit of all. According to the release from the Keshe Foundation, our technology from this point on is in the hands of your nations, and from April 21st, 2012, our knowledge has become your nation's knowledge and assets. We hope that the world nations will use this new knowledge for its peaceful development for the advancement of the human race. What a Gaia idea! At this time, I would like to take a moment to address some of the comments made by listeners. We at InLightRadio are trying our best to address questions that you have had. One of the challenges being expressed was access to the archives of specific programs without having to search through the list of all the different programs at InLightRadio. To address this, Keshe, the webmaster of the 2012 scenario, has now created direct links to each program on the right-hand side of the 2012 scenario homepage. From here, you can access each one of the 4 programs: An Hour with an Angel, Heavenly Blessings, Our Galactic Family, and Cosmic Vision News. The archive on this page will be automatically updated as new programs become available. The website for this archive is www.the2012scenario.com. Now, you will no longer have to search through links and pages for specific programs. All information is now very neatly available in one place. Cosmic Vision News will continue to post a show summary outlining the news stories and all the links referencing those stories on the blog at greenprintforlife.org. It is my desire to have links to the programs available on the Greenprint for Life homepage as well. At this time, I personally do not have the specific knowledge to make the changes available to my website, but I am creating that this will soon take care of itself. A lot of time is used up listening to hours of video just to find a soundbite to use in the newscast. It would be wonderful to have a list, what we call a shot list in the industry, that marks the time and the subject being discussed. If any listeners are watching videos or listening to interviews and might be willing to mark down the time and topic while they are listening and send this to me, this could really help me in putting together information more quickly for the newscast. Please mark down the name of the program you're watching or listening to, the date, the hosts, and the guest or guests, and the item being discussed, and approximately the time when it is being discussed. Then I can find the information quickly. I would like to express my profound gratitude to everyone who has helped make Cosmic Vision News the success that it has now become. This success has been overwhelming and humbling, but at the same time, very exciting. It's gratifying to know that people around the world are resonating with the kind of news that will help to change our planet and to change consciousness much more quickly, and to help facilitate the introduction of technologies as well as the galactic families whom we are very soon going to be meeting. It is wonderful to be a part of a project that has been called a planetary first and groundbreaking. Cosmic Vision News received 5 donations to support this work in the past week, and so I'm very grateful to each of you for this support to help me continue to look after my expenses. Donations to support the work of Cosmic Vision News are gratefully received through PayPal. The email address to send donations is Jeff, GEOFF, at greenprintforlife.org. So that is the unfolding consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is a part of the InLight Radio group of programs heard at this local time each week. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you not to ask what you can take from the world that exists, but rather, what can you offer to the world that is awakening? Until our next moment of now, stay grounded in love and keep your eyes to the skies. Disclosure is unfolding all around you. Namaste.
This is Thank You White Knights, and I hope you enjoyed this video. For updates and to go to the source of this article, please find the link below the YouTube screen while watching in YouTube. For the latest news and updates, please visit thankyouwhiteknights.com.